What's up, everyone? It's Caddy with Money Investing. So welcome on board to yet another Market Open live stream. Just let me know if you guys can hear me, if you guys can see me, if everything is working good. We should be all set. The markets are green pre-market, so we are up a little bit. So Nasdaq ETF up over 46 basis points. We got the S&P up over 56 basis points. You got the Dow Jones up over 66 basis points. However, we are coming down pre-market. So if you take a look at the 5-minute chart or the 30-minute chart for that matter, we have been pulling back pre-market. So the real question really is going to be if we're going to be able to hold up to this pre-market gap up, or if we're going to see a sell-off intraday, right? This is going to be very interesting because that was the initial spike and then some more momentum to the downside pre-market for the individual indices and the ETFs as well. Same pattern for the Nasdaq ETF as well. So perfect. Welcome on board. Thank you so much for joining in. I really appreciate you guys' support. Drop a like if you guys enjoy this content, and of course we're going to be talking about a lot of different things, right? Ethereum got bought up perfectly from that support, $2,800 to $3,000. We did dip down to that low, so low for the day was as low as $2,807, so literally $7 off that support of 2,800, and then we got bought up back up to over 3,000. Bitcoin surprisingly also getting bought up very quickly. You know, we did dip down to this sort of support, or not quite support, but we did break down below 42,000, and then we basically saw buyers step in. And look at the candle. I mean, it's got no body. It's just a straight up wick. It's just a really long wick. So there's just so much indecision, and the buyers and sellers both literally just fighting over Bitcoin right now, based on where it's going to be. But the buyers seem to be winning this battle because we were all the way down to lows of 40,000, and the buyers stepped in to push us back over that level. So Kevin, love your daily videos, Caddy. You're pretty awesome in my book. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Tan, for joining in. Toronto, welcome on board. Steve, welcome. Lil, Mushtaq, thank you so much for joining in. Shout out to all of you guys. Peyton, welcome on board. I like the new name, the Game Report by Peyton. That's great. That's awesome. But yeah, let me ask you guys and what you guys think on the polls and whether this is going to be a bull trap or a bull rally. And the reason why I'm calling this a bull trap right now is because if you take a look at SPY, you'll notice a very important pattern, right? We broke down from the 50 EMA. So if I remove all the lines, you'll notice that yesterday we actually broke down for the first time in a long time, right? We've been perfectly validating, respecting that moving average. You'll notice that we've just been having this basketball pattern where we continue to bounce higher from this 50 EMA. And yesterday was the first time we actually broke down from this 50 EMA. And now this old support level has the potential to become a new resistance, right? If we do go back up to see a retest, that 441, we could start to form some type of resistance at that level. And this could also start forming some type of a new lower low, right? So if you take a look at this, you'll notice that this is in fact a new lower low. So we actually went much lower than we did the previous time over here. So you know that is some type of a lower low right there for the S&P. That could be a beginning of something. We'll see what happens today, but I want to hear from you guys, bull trap or a bull rally. So the poll is going to go out now, and let me know what you guys think. So all right, perfect. And we're also going to talk about a lot of different things while you guys are voting. So Democratic congressional leaders said they will try to pass a bill that both prevents a government shutdown and suspends the U.S. debt limit through the end of 2022. Not the end of 2021, but end of 2022. So we know the previous administration signed another bill that suspended the debt ceiling till July 2021, which expired. And Janet Yellen also said, who's the Treasury Secretary, basically said that the U.S. will likely not be able to pay its bills sometime in October. So after September, they are going to have some issues paying its bills. And as a result, they need to borrow more, which as a result, they either need to suspend or raise the debt ceiling, which I mentioned in our yesterday's video is a bit of a concern, but also not a huge risk because this has happened time and time again. I think the U.S. has raised its debt ceiling, I think a little bit over 60 times since 1960s. And they've also suspended it, I think, like half a dozen times in the past. So this was not a huge concern, but of course, over the longer term, we don't know what the implications of this are going to be because the debt just keeps going up and up. But moving forward, Uber also rose over 5.7% in pre-market after they revised their financial outlook higher for the third quarter, and the company now expects to report between 22 billion to as high as 23.2 billion in gross bookings for the third quarter, and it previously forecasted between 22 and 24 billion on the second quarter earnings call. To me, that's not a huge jump because you'll notice that on the high end, it's coming down about 800 million. On the low end, it's actually going up about 800 million. So their low end guidance is actually going up and their high end guidance is actually coming down. So they're getting more narrower in terms of their guidance, which makes sense because third quarter is almost going to be over, and they're getting more specific as to what they're going to generate in terms of bookings. So the stock's up over 5.7%. That's a little bit surprising to me just based on this financial outlook. But anyway, so Johnson & Johnson also shares gained about 80 basis points in early morning trading after the pharmaceutical company said that the booster shot is 94% effective when administered 2 months after the first dose in the US. And Uber also mentioned that it now expects adjusted EBITDA, which is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization, all that stuff, to be between a loss of 25 million to as high as a profit of 25 million. So that again is a big, wide guidance from the company. And Uber previously said it expected adjusted EBITDA for the third quarter to be better than a loss of $100 million. So that's much more of a specific guidance that they're giving us. Apple also ticked higher, up over 90 basis points in the pre-market after Wall Street Journal reported that technology companies working on iPhone features to help identify depression and cognitive decline. And the features would use sensor data to help detect these health issues, which again are very, very important across the world. So I think it's the right way that Apple is progressing into this. I think a lot of people can benefit from that very specific feature. And Chevron, Exxon also higher as oil stocks rebounded higher. Energy prices have been pushing up. All they did come down a little bit. And Phase Energy was also up a little bit early morning after KeyBank initiated coverage on the stock with an overweight rating. The firm said the solar energy play had a solid base business and growing opportunities. The pricing or the valuation for this company is still rich. That's why I want you guys to be very careful with this one and Phase Energy. But I do like the company overall. They're profitable, growing revenues in the solar business and clean renewable energy, so I like that a lot. India could surpass the UK as the world's 5th largest stock market by 2024. So that was actually very, very interesting coverage by Goldman Sachs. And they basically said that India's startups have raised $10 billion through IPOs so far this year. One of the biggest ones we saw this year was another company called Zomato, which is like very similar to DoorDash and Uber Eats that delivers foods. And they basically IPO for billions of dollars as well. Very, very successful company, and we're going to see another one come out, which is called Paytm. I may invest in that one. That one is like a combination of PayPal and Amazon kind of bunched together over here in India that kind of caters to the Indian market. So that's also a lot of potential for that company. But overall, I mean, they've raised over $10 billion through IPOs so far in 2021. And the pipeline for future public listings is expected to remain robust over the next 2 years. And based on Goldman's calculation, as many as 150 private firms could potentially list on the stock market over the next 36 months, adding as much as 400 billion of market value. And then we got nearly estimated 400 billion of market cap could be added from new IPOs over the next 2 to 3 years, and that will put us an increase from 3.5 trillion currently to over $5 trillion by 2024. And that's likely to make the South Asian country the 5th largest in the world by market cap, surpassing the UK and the Middle East. So now we talk about Evergrande, because this week is very important for Evergrande. The first test for Evergrande's debt crisis comes this week, and we just lost the power. So I do apologize for the beep again. It is supposed to rain, so there is going to be some storms coming in. So hopefully it's not going to be as bad. But anyway, so Evergrande is due to pay out interest worth $83 million on a 5-year US dollar denominated bond with an initial issue size around $2 billion. And another interest payment on the 7-year dollar denominated bond is due next Wednesday on September 29th. You guys want to see something crazy? Here's something that's really, really crazy to me that I just found out. Yields for Evergrande's 8.25% 5-year bond skyrocketed. This literally skyrocketed to over 560% yield. Yields on this bond have skyrocketed to 560% from just over 10% earlier this year. The bond is due to mature in March 2022. I mean, this is crazy. I mean, the amount of risk that this bond carries and the fact that it goes up to 560% and this expires in less than a year is just wild. No one's going to touch this with a 10-foot pole because of the risk it carries. But, as we've seen so much sell-off in the bonds for Evergrande, as a result, the yields have gone up, right? Hence, as a result, it's made them more risky from like a fixed income, point of view. So definitely, it was very surprising how much they've actually rallied a little bit higher. But fact is, Evergrande is already in a technical default, having missed bank interest payment. He was referring to reports that the Chinese government told major banks that the real estate giant will not be able to pay interest on its loans that were due earlier this week on Monday. So Monday was another dip. Another sort of like a payment due date for them. And with risks of missing a bond coupon later this week, the capacity to spook capital markets remains significant, considering Evergrande accounts for just about 11% of all Asia high yield bonds. So overall, this risk is still there in the markets, in my opinion. That is still something that we need to consider, just from like a global market standpoint. And we'll see, what how this kind of plays out over the next few weeks, and if the government over in China kind of intervenes, or if they just let it be. That is also going to be very, very important. The VIX was down. It was down a little bit over 10%, I think, from yesterday's close. So let's take a quick look. So we were down over 12.5%, but right now we are starting to push higher. We're only down about 7%, back over 23, 24 levels, and 25 again is going to be the level to watch very, very closely for the volatility index. So that right there is a quick wrap up on the markets and some of the news pieces that we just went over. The market's still coming down a little bit over 49 basis points. We got the Nasdaq down about 40, and we got the Dow actually up. Excuse me, we're up. S&P up over 48 basis points. The Nasdaq is up over 40 basis points, and the Dow also up over 60. All right, let's take a quick look on some of the live chat here. So my Uber calls are up 44% today. Steve, that's awesome. Congratulations. What is price target on Visa? So Jana, I don't have a price target on Visa yet. I'm still doing my fundamental analysis in order to put a price target of 5 years out till 2026. But right now, 220 is actually going to be a support since we are back over that level. And yesterday, we actually saw a green candle on a red day for Visa. So a lot of buyers kind of step in. So this company still trades at a pretty rich valuation, but I will be doing a fundamental analysis on this company to put a price target on Visa as well. So we will be doing that very, very soon. And of course, over the next 5 years, what's that annualized rate of return? What is going to be that total upside for the company as well? What do you think about Amazon? So Amazon, bullish overall, but it perfectly got tagged. I mean, this is just about as perfect as it gets. We got tagged at the 200 SMA at the top, at the bottom, and then 50 EMA at the top at 3,400. But take a look at the low price, 33.05, right? Perfectly got tagged at that 200 SMA. If I bring out that support, 33.05, 3,300, that was kind of like that support that we were watching. So the buyers did step in, but the real question now is that if that 50 EMA is going to continue to act as a resistance, right? That's something that I mentioned in our Discord today. One of the most important things, perhaps a single most important thing for us to understand here today is going to be resistance levels. Because once we see that breakdown, with any specific stock, and I've explained this in the past as well, if this right here is some type of a support or a resistance for a stock, and it's kind of bouncing off of these levels time and time again, it's kind of bouncing off, but the moment we break down, usually, not always, but usually our next sort of thing to watch here is that if the stock goes back up, to make this old support as a new resistance. If that happens, then we could see some new lower lows and continue to trade downwards. It's the same thing on the flip side, right? When the stock is hitting some type of resistance, getting rejected, and then we see a breakout, we want this resistance to turn into a new support right here, validate this, and then continue to push higher, right? And what's happening right now is that yesterday, not for all stocks, but for many stocks, including Apple, Amazon, and the S&P, we actually saw a breakdown below certain support levels. So the real question really is going to be if those levels are now going to turn into a resistance, or if the S&P is going to regain that momentum back over that 50 EMA, back over 441 for the SPY, to push higher, and we're going to continue to kind of buy the dip and push higher to new all-time highs again. Or if this is going to be a beginning of something else, like the lower lows that we're forming right now. So yesterday's low was much lower than the previous dip that we saw back in August. And if this is going to be sort of like a mild push higher, and we're just going to continue to make some lower lows and lower highs for the S&P. So that's a real question for the markets right now, and of course we're going to continue to monitor the VIX. We did do some buying yesterday as we got up to as high as 27, 28 levels, and it was just really surprising to watch the S&P, the Nasdaq, and the Dow down over 3% at one point yesterday. I mean, it was just crazy to just understand. If we didn't see that buying momentum come in from yesterday towards the last hour of the day, the Nasdaq would have closed down over 3% from where we closed the day before. So very, very substantial drop intraday for the markets before the buyers stepped in. Eric, so if the VIX goes up, does Amazon break down? So VIX is more correlated with the S&P 500. It's not correlated with Amazon. So if the VIX goes up, we see a drop in the S&P 500. So more specifically, the S&P 500 stocks will start to pull back, as we saw yesterday. Yesterday was a great example of the VIX jumping over 23%. As a result, the S&P was down, and a lot of the stocks within the S&P 500 were down as well. What we want to focus on, if you're looking at Amazon, is the VXN. So VXN was also up over 22% yesterday, jumping all the way to highs of 30. If this also goes up, pushes higher, then the Nasdaq, which is correlated with the VXN, will come down with it, and Amazon being a Nasdaq stock will potentially come down with that as well. So everything, all of that is going to be correlated with some of the individual indices that we're going to be following, right? So the S&P is correlated with the VIX, and the Nasdaq correlated with the VXN. So very important stuff to watch there. All right, do you normally use the weekly RSI or monthly plus annual RSI as well? So RSI, I mostly only use it for daily or 4-hour charts, maybe sometimes on the 4-hour chart as well, but I almost never use it on the monthly or larger time frames, and I also don't use it on very shorter time frames, unless of course it's the sole purpose of like understanding like more on a day trading level, which I also don't do, but very rarely I would check out like 1 minute, 5 minute RSIs, but for the most part it's only 4 hours or dailies that I look at for the relative strength index, or maybe even weeklies. Sometimes I will look at for weeklies since some stocks can be down a lot. Like for example, this company, Sam, on the weekly RSI, I mean, it's come down to lows of 24. So it's like incredibly oversold at these levels, and it was up over 1.4%, right? We talked about it over the weekend and how it's testing that 200 SMA. So this stock could be the first green week that we see in a very long time, in over like 2 months or 3 months or something. So we'll see. Eddie says it's turnaround Tuesday, so that's a great spirit. We definitely could use a little bit of a turnaround, and we'll see if the markets continue to push higher or if we see some more breakdowns for those individual companies. How do you feel about technical analysis versus fundamentals with pullbacks? It always seems the news is pointed to as a catalyst, but the technicals have shown divergences and overboughtness for some time. So and for True, thank you so much. I appreciate that comment. But Glenn, that's a great question. So for the most part, with technicals and fundamentals, they kind of, when we see a pullback or a drop, from a technical levels, I like to focus on where are stocks going in terms of being oversold. Oversold on the RSI, the MACD, and hitting some support levels. And then from a fundamental basis, I like to look at where the valuations are coming down to, right? Because every valuation, almost every day, every stock's valuation changes, right? So when we're looking at price to earnings, the P in the price, or the P in that price to earnings multiple is the actual stock price, right? Price to sales, that P in that price to sales multiple is the market cap. Market cap changes every single day. We've got enterprise value to EBITDA multiples. Enterprise value also changes every day because it's just a subset of market cap. So valuations change almost every day. If the prices come down, it's always important for us to constantly monitor where the valuations are coming down to. So you can build what's called a sensitivity analysis, which we do have in our fundamental analysis course that I'm doing. And what that'll tell you is if the prices come down to certain levels, what the valuation is going to look like based on those valuation multiples, right? If the price drops 20%, 30%, 40%, what that valuation metric is going to come down to. So we can make a better judgment whether the stock is going to be undervalued, fairly valued, or overvalued based on these drops. So I think that's very, very helpful using that sensitivity analysis to understand where these prices are going. But anyway, so the markets are open. We're going to switch over to the actual indices here. So I'm going to put the NASDAQ here, the SPX over here, and the Dow Jones over here. All right, so we got the poll, 75% people saying that it's going to be a bull trap, and bull rally only 25%. So gonna end the poll there. But yeah, most of the people think that this is going to be in fact a bull trap. We'll see. If we come down below 14,007, that is going to be very interesting. We're actually going to end up being red if the Nasdaq ends up filling this gap right here. The S&P's got decent amount of gap to fill here, down to 4360. If we come down to that level, then we're going to end up being red. And the Dow Jones also, if you close below 34,000, if you start trading below 34,000, then we are going to be red as well. So only a trap if Caddy goes to sleep. That's true. Yesterday when I went to sleep, the markets turned really, really red very, very quickly. That was very, very interesting to watch for the markets. But let's take a look at the SPY here and where we are opening up. So SPY right there. So that's where we opened. And again, we'll see what happens here because we still have a little bit of a gap to fill right there for the SPY, and we'll see. Adobe earnings today. Any thoughts? I'm bullish on Adobe. I like Adobe a lot. It's testing that 50 EMA. So in terms of earnings, I don't like to trade these binary events just based on earnings, but if it drops down to 525, even though I don't expect it to, that would be like a very severe drop. 18, 19%. But I am bullish on Adobe over the longer term. They have a history of beating earnings, revenue, EPS. They've got a really, really solid business model. Very, very sticky as well, and a lot of retention for Adobe's customers. So we'll see if it actually, because I feel like a lot of the earnings are already priced in for Adobe for the most part. Up over 28% year to date, certainly outperforming the S&P 500, and now starting to crawl back in. So 50 EMA is going to be that support at 632. That's going to be the level to watch. All right, so we are seeing a bit of a pullback here on the NASDAQ and the S&P as well. On the 5-minute chart, we'll see what happens. Tesla is upstart back up to over $302, up another 2.7% on the day. Amazon is up over 20 basis points. Let's take a look at Apple. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. So Vergilius, I'm using TradingView software. So TradingView is the platform that I use to look at all the charts, do all my technical analysis. So you can check out the link down in the description below if you want to join as well. But this is a software that I've been using for years, and I've just been very, very pleased with everything that they have to offer. So VIX down now only 6.7%. Remember, we're coming from 12.5% decline and now down only 6.7%. That means the VIX is moving up to the upside here. Tesla pulling back here, unfortunately, on the 5-minute, and so is Apple. Amazon also upstarts seeing some weakness. Let's take a quick scan on the markets here. So from green to red, we got QuantumScape up over 13%. Look at that, breaking out over that 50 EMA and that sort of like the falling wedge for QuantumScape after a really long time. I mean, this stock has just been beaten down so much. From 131, this stock is down a little bit over 84%. We're finally seeing that breakout to the upside. And for the first time, we're actually breaking over that 50 EMA. LUV breaking over $50. So that's good. Up over 90 basis points here. I'm bullish on LUV. Just based on the divergence that I'm seeing, based on the balance sheet, on a technical level and on a fundamental level, I really do like Southwest here. And we've been accumulating more and more for Southwest. So Glenn, Uber up 7.5%. That's very solid. Definitely pushing up to the upside here. But yeah, Southwest, that's also a strong move. AMC is up over 2% almost. So again, $40 is going to be that next support level. Seems like we validated that level yesterday and today. So $40.83 is the low for the day today. And we are just trading above that level. Upstart we already covered. Roku is also over 2.5%, after testing that support at 320, 321. On a technical level, I also do like Roku, just based on how oversold this company is, and from a double top resistance high, we're down over 35%. But fundamentally, it kind of still remains a little bit rich here. So valuation still at 197 times earnings, 20 times sales is still very rich for Roku right now. How many shares in Google do you consider yourself full position? I would like to at least own maybe, I want to say 15 to 20 shares I would like to get for Google. Again, I'm going to accumulate more over time. This is not like I'm going to be dumping all that in one go, but I like to accumulate it over the course of next few months, depending on how the market trades and where it is. Right now it's at just about 2,800. So we're just literally, to the T right here. At 2,800, right? That's either going to be a resistance or a support today. We're going to find out because previously we have gone rejected at that level for Google before pulling back here down about 4%. So we'll see if that resistance continues for Google. High for the day 2804. Right now we're at 2794. And if we actually see that breakdown below 50 EMA, if we do 2550, I would be kind of considering adding more shares over there for Google right there. All right, so the buyers are stepping in. This is the second 5-minute candle here, just opened up, and the Dow still up over 47 basis points. The S&P kind of rebounding up over 47, and we got NASDAQ up over 0.5%. I would say the riskiest play with the highest reward right now in the markets is surprisingly the Evergrande bond. So Tom says going YOLO on Evergrande. This is actually very, very interesting because the yield for this, I've never seen this before, jumping to for 560%. I mean, that's such a high yield for a bond. Crazy. Fiverr back over $200. There we go. So pushing up over 2.2%. So nice move to the upside. So Etsy should be also green in my opinion. Let's take a look. So it's up another 2% here for Etsy. So that's good. Back up to over 222. So yeah, a lot of stocks green today. Dip bars stepping in, and the VIX again down over 7.3%. This is very important. Again, if you can kind of understand where to time the VIX and when it goes up and start buying at those 25, 30. You know, sometimes in our lifetimes, I know for a fact that VIX is going to get up to 40. It's going to get up to 50, 60 levels again, like we saw back when the pandemic happened. And this is like just a monstrous spike over here to highs of 84, right? So if you can just follow the trend with the VIX, you can almost perfectly understand when you want to position yourself more as a buyer and where you can start to trim and lock in some of the profits. And this is again correlated with the S&P 500, so it mostly applies to S&P 500 stocks. For the NASDAQ stocks, you want to closely monitor the VXN and where that's trading. You know, if it gets up to 32, we're going to start looking to buy more and more tech-heavy, healthcare-heavy stocks in that market. So definitely, you know, buyers stepping in for the markets here. You got Tesla up over 76 basis points, so starting to see some recovery here. Apple, Amazon still green, but not by a lot, and flat so far. Alibaba is up over 0.5%, but still not really recovering all that much. You know, it's still flat so far, 152.25. We're still trading at these levels, right? Still inside this green rectangle, so we'll see. So Miami Walking Tours, can you explain the 560% bond? What's the maturity date? Is that per year, etc.? So that's true. I mean, this bond actually expires in March 2022. So this is a 5-year bond. So if you're looking at 5 years ago, 2017, if you were to buy this 2017, back in 2017, of course, the yield was not as high as 560%. It was at just over 8%, but this is also, I think, denominated in a different currency. So when you do that Chinese yuan to dollar denominated bonds, you're going to get that yield much, much lower. But this was a 5-year bond back in 2017 yielding 8.25%. But the reason why there's been so much risk with Evergrande's debt, because a lot of people are not getting paid. Banks did not get paid for the interest on the loans that they issued to Evergrande. The company also has a huge sort of test. Of course, you know, there's potential default risk here with Evergrande. It's going to be due to pay interest out worth $83 million. That's why you're seeing a lot of people, investors around the world, you know, could be domestic, could be foreign investors, dumping bonds attached to Evergrande. And as a result, bond prices come down and yields go up, right? So yields basically jumped from 8% to as 560%. So this is extremely risky. I mean, this is about as risky as it gets, because if you buy this bond, you're basically lending money to Evergrande. And once you lend that money to Evergrande, it's pretty much gone in the air, because then you have to wait and see if they're going to pay back or not, right? Because they have been defaulting on their debt. So that's the riskiest play, but of course comes at a reward of 560%. So thoughts on whether Fed's going to start tapering at the end of this year? Yes. So I do think they're going to taper this year before the end of this year. We're going to find out, of course, tomorrow. Tomorrow we got the Jerome Powell meeting, FOMC meeting, and Jerome Powell's speech coming at 2 p.m. Eastern, so September 22nd. And that's not over. That's not the only thing. We're going to also find out the summary of economic projections and how they've actually changed their projections based on the previous historical data for employment, inflation, whatnot, and this is going to be released for the month of August as well. So that's very important, and the dot plot is going to be very important as well. Again, remember, interest rates very important for the markets and the economy, because almost everything that you see in the financial markets is priced against interest rates, right? Whether it's mortgages, auto loans, even valuations for companies, everything is priced against interest rates, and the Fed funds rate is what we like to call it. The risk-free rate is a US 10-year yield, so that also affects the valuation. So I don't expect any type of a rate announcement. I still think they're going to push it back a couple years. My expectation is 2024 is when we're going to see actual rate hikes come into play, but tapering could begin by the end of this year. So you know, we'll see what they announce. And then on Friday, of course, we got another meeting. So Chairman Jerome Powell is also going to be talking about perspectives on the pandemic recovery and where we are with the recovery as well. This may not be as important as, of course, tomorrow's meeting, because tomorrow we're going to get a lot of economic data. So put that on your calendar, 2:30 p.m. Eastern. That is going to be pretty late over here, but I will be live streaming it. And depending on where you are, you want to make sure that you're at least listening to it, watching it, and just because the markets are going to react to it, right? The last time you saw Jerome Powell speak, the markets absolutely boomed, and they're just like pushing higher. Let's take a look at Lucid. So Lucid LCID, it's been doing really well, right? So Lucid target is at 29. That's the next target. It's up another 6% today, so definitely on a strong move. Again, next target, next resistance at $29, closer to $30. That is going to be that next level to watch. for Lucid Motors, and definitely on a strong move to the upside. The R side not quite overbought yet, but I would keep a close eye at that level as well. And this is again a double top resistance, so to speak, for Lucid as well. Update on Pinterest and Walgreens. So let's take a look at Walgreens and how that stock is doing. So slightly up 66 basis points, nothing really. Still trading inside this higher highs and higher lows. I do still think that Walgreens is undervalued. It's going to take some time. This is again not like a 1 month trade or like a 1 week trade. This is a longer term play for two things: capital appreciation, which I do think based on the undervalued levels where Walgreens is trading at and how much potential I see for the company. Over time, it's going to grow. And of course, the dividend yield is also very good at close to 3.85, almost 4%. Of course, not comparable with Evergrande's bond, 560%, but I like Walgreens at 3.85%. For Pinterest, let's take a quick look. So Pinterest is up over just about 1%. So $51, $52 is a really strong support for Pinterest. I just really think that this is more like a accumulation phase for the company as we continue to kind of come down. This is support that we validated here. For Pinterest, we pushed up over 10%, and right now we're just seeing more accumulation, in my opinion, for the company before it makes its next move. The RSI's come down, the MACD's come down. I mean, this is just a really, really downtrending pattern, lower highs and lower lows. And I could see some more recovery here, potentially back up to 60, 65, even as $70 a share for the company. Let's take a look at Palantir very quickly. Palantir had a severe drop yesterday, which was not a surprise because $29 was a resistance for us. And today you'll notice that we're up over 1.3%, aligned with the market and how the markets are doing, aligned with a lot of different stocks actually. Several companies are up quite a bit, but 2750 is going to be that next resistance level to watch here intraday, right? That is the level to watch. We're still trading inside this higher high and higher low pattern, so still inside this ascending channel here. So $29 resistance perfectly got tagged inside this red circle. That was the higher high and a previous horizontal resistance where we got rejected at coming in from December 2020. So that was the same exact level that we tagged at. So right here, if you kind of look at this over here, same exact level there. And right now we're seeing a little bit of a pullback here. So in my opinion, 2580, closer to that higher low, is going to be a much stronger support level. So that is going to be the level to watch. And 2750 is going to be that next resistance. So I would not be buying Palantir here, just because on where it is based on the valuations. I still have Palantir, of course. I haven't sold anything because my price target is over $50 on the stock, about 100 billion market cap by 2025. So I do expect a full 100% upside from current levels, but that's also based on how the fundamentals grow and evolve over time, and if they're able to gain more market share, of course, gain more contracts with the U.S. government and commercial clients as well. Let's take a look at NEO. So NEO definitely up over 68 basis points here, aligned with the markets again. But yesterday I think we got down to $34.54. So $34 is still going to be that support level to watch. NEO has a very downtrending channel, you guys already know, so it's making lower highs and lower lows. So it's a very bearish pattern in a bearish context. And if you take a look at some of the Chinese stocks, they are up, but they're not fully quite rebounding all that much, right? So we got Alibaba that's up over just about 17 basis points, not a lot. We got JD.com flat, up over 65 basis points. Then we got DD that's up almost 1%. XPeng, Li Auto up just over 1%. NEO is also up just about 65 basis points. So really, I mean, the sentiment towards Chinese stocks is not great right now, right? That's the real problem, because we have seen some exodus from Chinese companies, and as a result, a lot of companies that are not even affected by this, including NEO, Li Auto, XPeng, that are in fact even getting supported by the provinces, are getting caught in the crosshairs. And that's exactly the risk that I wanted to address, which we did not too long ago. But even though they're not directly being affected by it, there is a lot of psychological effect to NEO, because it's just because it's a Chinese stock, right? That's why it's coming down. But fundamentally speaking, under the hood, the company has been progressing well. They're building more battery swap stations. They've got a lot of products in the pipeline. NEO Days coming up later this year in December, going into January of next year. ET7 is going to be rolled out. They're expanding into Norway. They're expanding into Germany. So a lot of things they're doing right. It's just, as I mentioned, the stock price is not the company. The company is not the stock price at the moment. And it comes with risk, so you have to assess that for yourself. I'm comfortable with the volatility, so that's okay for me, but you have to understand if you are okay with that risk, because there's plenty of opportunities elsewhere, right? There's plenty of stocks in the markets, and you don't have to just trade these Chinese companies if you don't want to, and that's completely your decision, and I respect that. All right, so let's take a look at Take-Two Interactive, and Pinterest we already went over. So do you think it's a good time to buy FANG stocks? So out of all the FANGs, in my strong opinion, I really do like Facebook at these sort of levels. I would still like to wait at closer to 325, 320s. Like that's going to be kind of like a sweeter spot for me to establish a position on Facebook. I like Facebook. I like Google, just based on where we are. Just at 2800 here. And then I also like Amazon, but not so much that I would be buying at these levels here. I would be adding more closer to like 3,000, 3,200 on Amazon. Netflix, honestly, I've never really owned Netflix stock. Never traded this either. Actually, maybe I've traded it in the past, like maybe once, but never really owned it because it's been very, very sideways and of course consolidated sideways. Out of all the FANG stocks, it's probably like the least stock. It's probably the least company that's the least interested me over that time frame, right? But it's also got a lot of potential, but increasing competition as well from Prime Video, Disney Plus, Hotstar, and whatnot. A lot of different companies. So all right, that's that, and then Apple is good. Of course, it's kind of like a staple stock, but 134 is kind of like the level that I'm watching support at the 200 SMA for the company. All right, let's take a look at the markets. There we go. We are starting to push higher here. The bull rally's coming in, so we are, just under 4,400 for the S&P 500, and we got Shiv. Welcome on board. Thanks for joining. Nasdaq up over 84 basis points, so definitely seeing that buyer momentum come in, and we got the Dow Jones, up almost 94 basis points as well, just over 34,296. Then we got Bitcoin, of course, rallying back up to our support level at 42,000. They've got Ethereum back over 3,000. The VXN down over 5%, and the VIX also coming down a little bit over 11% now. So selling off here. Neo trending, Aaron. Thank you so much for joining in. Welcome on board. And we got the markets definitely pushing up. So hopefully when I go to sleep, hopefully when I go to bed, the markets don't pull back here. So Mark, are you snagging more Google at this price? Not quite. I would like to build out a bigger position in this company for sure. But the real question really for me is what happens with the SPY over the next few weeks? Because remember, tomorrow there is going to be some volatility. We've got Jerome Powell's meeting, right? He's going to be talking about monetary policy and what the decision is with the asset purchases, tapering, interest rates later down the road, not quite right now, but tapering and all that different things. And then we also got Evergrande's issue, right? That's still a global issue, in my opinion. Even though it's more concentrated to the Chinese economy, it's still going to have some effects in the global markets. So still waiting to see, because they do have a couple of debt payments coming up, this week and next week on next Wednesday on September 29th. So I think that those are going to be some reasons for me to just kind of sit tight. We did some buying. We did our buying yesterday and today a little bit. So just sitting tight with some more clarity on the markets and whether we actually see a rejection here on the 50 EMA and then curl back down, or if this gets bought up once again, we break out over that 50 EMA. The Dow has obviously been pulling back, and we are well below our 50 EMA on the Dow Jones. But a couple of times it has also breached that level before the buyer stepped in and pushed us back over that level. So, and the Nasdaq, of course, has been now trading or testing perfectly its 50 EMA. So 14,857 is the Nasdaq's 50 EMA, and right now we're just like testing, tagging that level, and we'll see. We'll see if the buyers step in around these levels. So where is that 14,857? So 14,857 right there is going to be that resistance for the Nasdaq. We'll monitor that closely and see if that level actually acts as some type of resistance here. And then for the S&P, just quickly taking a look at that. So Ankur, do you ever buy call options? Not yet. So options I'm going to be starting in 2022, and there's only 3 strategies that I will be applying. They're more like income-based strategies. They're going to be buying leaps, longer-term leaps, selling cash secure puts, and selling covered calls. Those are the 3 strategies that I will be doing only for options starting next year. So I'm not going to be buying short-term calls, short-term puts, because of the decay, because of the volatility, and because of the, of course, the a lot of the sort of decay that you're paying just by holding those options contracts, right? You have to basically get a lot of things right in short-term options. So that's not the strategies that I like, but they're going to be more income-based strategies. So it's great for someone who has a portfolio with a lot of different stocks that already has like 100 shares of these companies, so that you can sell covered calls, and of course if you have some cash on the sidelines, you can sell cash secure puts as well if you want to buy certain stocks at certain levels. So and then all you have to do is just wait, and you're getting paid to wait for that stock. All right, so 44.23 has the S&P's resistance here, so we're just going to mark that here very closely. 44.23 right there. That's the S&P's 50 EMA. So there we go. We have both of those for the Nasdaq and the S&P right there. All right, let's take a look at AZN. So AZN, profitable healthcare company with good growth and low valuation. Let's take a look. So AstraZeneca. Let's see. So stable revenues, that's very good. Profit margins well over 13%, 5%. I think we've done some analysis on this in the past. Looks like it did somewhat validate at a $56 level, around those levels before having a huge rally yesterday. So this was yesterday when the markets were red, 5%. That's very, very good during a severe sell-off. Oh, this is the company that was the only company that was green yesterday. So when we looked at the heat map, I don't know if I still have that. Let me see if I can pull that up. So that would be very interesting because I think I did see like one. Yeah, I don't have that update anymore from yesterday. But there was one company that was green, probably AstraZeneca. That was like 5% push higher. So 38 times earnings. That is okay. I don't want to say it's like a low valuation, but it's okay. 4.6 times sales. We got 22 times cash flow. That's also reasonable. Enterprise value 183 billion. Current ratio 1.23. That's really good. Yeah, I could just watch back my old video. I do that. I do often do that a lot. If there's videos that I've done, like different analysis, different growth rates that I've taken for different companies, I do end up watching my own videos to make sure that I have the right numbers. But yeah, I mean, valuation is decent, I would say. Bank of America had a, let me see. So Bank of America had an upgrade on something. All right, we'll just cover that in just a second. But balance sheet here. So total cash at 15 billion, and we got total debt at 27 billion. So actually total cash is, let me see. Total cash at 15 billion, debt at 27 billion. So the balance sheet is not the best in terms of long-term debt versus cash that they have. But next resistance I would watch is at $61 a share. So that would be the level to watch right there for AstraZeneca. It's right there. All right, let's take a look at the markets here. So Nasdaq seems to be finding some intraday resistance, not a whole lot, but some resistance there at the 50 EMA. Pfizer was also up 71 basis points yesterday, so that's good. Nvidia in 2022. Yeah, Nvidia right now, I think it's still, trading at these valuations that, for me, they remain rich. So not touching this yet. 78 times earnings, 25 times sales. Just the price of sales metric alone is enough for me to kind of second guess my decision on Nvidia, because it was great, at lower like 150s, 140s, like even as low as 135s. It was perfect, but right now it's just too much here. Ankur, we want a how options work video. Yeah, absolutely, that's a great idea. It's a great suggestion, so thank you for that. I'll definitely make sure to kind of incorporate that when I actually start trading options myself. So Nvidia defies all laws of valuation. It does. There's a lot of companies that are actually doing that, defy all laws of valuation. Upstart is another one. This stock is green again, 1.7%. This just remains high. The real thing is the stocks in the short term can continue to perform in different sort of ways. They can remain overvalued, they can remain undervalued, they can continue to perform kind of out of the ordinary. Like a lot of companies that are still undervalued, they are undervalued right now. A lot of companies that are overvalued, like Upstart, Nvidia. But over the long term, we're talking 4 or 5 years out, when things start to stabilize, that's when the valuations matter most, right? It's all about how much upside you have, how much upside potential the company has from its current levels, right? If, for example, very simple example, if Upstart had a price target of 300 from $100 a share, so from 100 to 300 in 5 years, that was a price target, then we would have seen an upside of 188% over 5 years. That's a great return on an annualized basis, right? I think that's like well over 20% on an annualized basis that you would have received for Upstart. But of course, stocks don't always move in that pattern. It went up 188% in 2 weeks, not 5 years. So how much more upside this company has at these levels, that reward versus the downside risk is what we need to evaluate when the stock gets out of hand, right? When it gets a little bit overvalued. So it's more about risk reward ratio here at these levels versus how much where it's trading, like based on the valuations. All right, so let's see. Team is also moving up as per Upstart. So yeah, I mean, this stock also 4.8%, also in a very, very strong rally here, coming from $208 up over 103%. So very, very strong move to the upside. Strong growing revenues, still not profitable quite yet, but 48 times sales and 117 times cash flow. And we got cash sitting at 1.2 billion, debt very, very low debt, so 2-to-1 cash to debt here. So Fiverr running today, 3%. That's good. Just hit $203. Starting to fill that gap even more. So we're gonna close this gap right here a little bit. Just a quick update on LUV. So just under $50. Micron, let's take a quick look. So Micron has been a very interesting stock, right? It's just been it's been down from its all-time highs. So we're pulling back a little bit over 26%, but that $74 is going to be that next resistance level to watch. I'm just waiting on the earnings for this company so I can evaluate more and kind of understand the revenue, the earnings, and whatnot, because they've been going down. They've been decelerating over the last 3 years, and that's obviously not good. When we look at our check marks, the 16 check marks that we have here on the channel, one of the first one is revenue growth, right? We want to see revenue growth year over year. We want the revenues to go up, and Micron doesn't quite have that yet. But that doesn't mean that it's bad. It just means that we need to evaluate this more as the earnings come out for the company. So we'll consider to watch that moving forward. All right, so let's see. Any other stocks that are moving, you guys, feel free to mention it. We'll go over that and look at them together. But the broader markets, look at that. It's starting to pull back here. The S&P is up over 0.5%. We went over DraftKings. Actually, we didn't go over DraftKings. We went over Pinterest. So Joshua, you can go over that in the past. Like previously, we've covered that. But DraftKings, wow, down over 4.6% today. That's a pretty steep drop, breaking down below $55. Definitely very interesting for DraftKings here. So, all right, makes $20 billion offer on Entain. So they're doing another acquisition. They bought Golden Nugget, and they also merged with Simple Bet for micro betting for DraftKings. That was like a couple of weeks ago, but they're also making another offer to another company. Interesting here. So Michael Jordan raises stake in sports gambling data company Sport Radar. So that's not related to DraftKings here right now, but yeah, definitely strong breakdown here. Below the moving averages, below $55.50. Volume's really high. We're already at 8.8 million shares, just about 30 minutes into the trading session. This is probably going to close at roughly 25 to 30 million is my guess, just based on where we are. The volume yesterday was 11 million. The day before it's averaged around 11.8 million, but today's breakdown could lead to some more downside potential here for DraftKings. So that's very interesting that we're seeing that breakdown here. So Mara is down over 1.62%. So Glenn, director sold 85,000 shares yesterday for DraftKings. Okay, that could be one of the reasons why we could be seeing some more momentum to the downside here. Because usually when the news breaks out like that, there is some more retail selling. Growth generation, so we got AMC flat. There's not a lot of red on the screen. There's mostly green today. Let's take a look at some of the other stocks here. So Fiverr is still doing well. In mode, this stock just is kind of like another Upstart 2.0. So Zenji, yeah, we're just going over that right now. I mean, this stock just continues to push higher at 146 now. We kind of missed the opportunity. I wanted to buy this at the 50 EMA, but I just, I was kind of skeptical going into this week because, I was expecting some type of pullback, so that's why I didn't quite pull the trigger on this. But it's actually done really well from September 14, 15 levels. It's up another 20%, so it's done really well. So definitely on the watch list, right? This is one of the companies that we talked about over the weekend, the 10 stocks to watch. Out of the 4 that I'm watching very closely, just added on. I bought it when you covered it. Oh, Simon, that's great. So yeah, that's great. That's awesome. Congratulations. But InMode was one of them. HubSpot was another one. that I'm watching very closely. I think there's a couple more that were on that list that we're watching very closely and just doing some analysis on them. Fortinet was another one that's up another 1.3%. But yeah, some of the more, you know, different types of stocks or different names that are up more. Like we got Upstart, Fiverr, InMode, Uber, Fortinet, Etsy, Peloton. Those are the type of stocks that are green today more. And unfortunately, we got the NASDAQ now coming down here, almost starting to make new low of days. So if we crack below 14,764, that'll be a new low of day. That will be some weakness for the NASDAQ intraday, and the S&P also coming down here. 43.71. If we break down below this level, that would be the level to watch. PACB. Let's take a look. So PACB. So it looks like we have done some analysis on this specific biosciences. I'm actually gonna get rid of a lot of the noise here, and for the most part, I mean, it's got a very simple symmetrical triangle formation here. Just kind of like this pattern where, you know, we're just making these lower highs and the higher lows. You can actually extend that even further out. You know, so there is some breakout, some potential move coming in for Pacific Biosciences. It's kind of hard to predict exactly which direction it's going to break out to, but just based on the fact that we're trading below the moving averages, getting rejected the 50 EMA, and you know, it's just been a prior sell-off here, over here, down over 55%. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a retest of $24, $25 for Pacific Biosciences if we get that breakdown. So, you know, that would be the level to watch. Resistance stays put at $36, $37 per share right there. NTRA. So, all right, let's take a look here. So yeah, I mean, in the past, this has been a perfect dip buying opportunity, right? Pushing higher, pulling back, pushing higher, pulling back. Nice uptrend here. The only issue with this company, in my opinion, is the volume. The volume is actually very low. Only 35,000 shares traded, so I can't even look at the 5-minute chart because the volume is just so poor, right? You can't even open the 1-minute chart and day trade the stock if you wanted to, because there's just no liquidity, right? I mean, it's a very illiquid stock. So volume, I like to see average volume at least to 1 million shares. So you'll notice the volume is just very, very low for this company. All right, so let's take a look at charge points, see how that stock is doing. Still in its downtrending channel, just consolidating sideways, not really doing anything, right? It's just been a lot of very, very low activity on charge point recently. Still trading in a lower high and lower low pattern, but overall, you know, not really doing anything. So star, what does trap mean? So bull trap basically refers to if there's any buying pressure that's coming in, but it's not really, that doesn't really have real breadth or real volume behind it, and it's for the most part still in bearish context, right? So when we're forming these lower highs and lower lows, a very simple bull trap could be that, you know, we're in this downtrending channel, so we're selling off, and this right here, the recovery that we see all the way back up to lower highs, could be a bull trap because we continue trading downward, right? We continue making lower highs and lower lows. And this buying momentum that we saw here could be seen as a bull trap because we're still in downtrending context. We're still in bearish context, and as a result, we continue trading downside. But again, that's the real question. Sometimes what happens is, you know, instead of making lower highs and lower lows again, coming down, we see a breakout over this resistance, and that's when the rally continues, and then we start making higher highs and higher lows, and then we just continue pushing higher. So, you know, those are those are some things to consider here. Yeah, so stocks don't go up or down in a straight line, so that's very true. We continue to push up and down. You know, very simple example is the S&P and how it's just followed this, you know, basketball pattern. It's pushed up, come down, validated that, respected that 50 EMA, and then continue to push higher even further. So today on the daily chart, let's take a look at the SPY very quickly. And we got a red candle on a green day, so that's very interesting. What have I talked about in the past when we have a green day but a red candle? Unless it's Upstart. Yes, unless it's Upstart. It's always a bull rally for Upstart, right? But yes, what have we talked about when it's a red candle on a green day for any stock or index? Is Tesla going? there you go. Tesla's up over 1.4%. Strong move to the upside here. So, all right, let's we'll take a look at Beam as well. But Upstart also getting that momentum to the upside. You know, up over 3.5%. But Amazon, Apple, some of the bigger tech FANG names kind of selling off here, unfortunately. So yeah, Lee is right, bearish sentiment, because intraday we're selling off. Intraday we're seeing a little bit of a pullback for it means sell off at towards the end of the day. So it means intraday sell off, right? So even if we do see a green day but a red candle, that means intraday the price opened higher and closed lower. So Ankur, you're absolutely right. So opening price is higher than closing price. So that's true, and that really represents intraday weakness for the index or the stock that you're looking at. So the gap is now only this much for the SPY, but the volume is low today, right? The volume is quite low, only 16 million so far in about 30 minutes. So we'll see what happens. You know, the Nasdaq, the S&P, actually they just made a new low of day. That is not very strong for the indexes. And if we crack below this level, right there. So right there, 43.60 for the SPY. That's when we're gonna turn red. So that is going to be support. This resistance for the SPY we didn't quite get up to as high as the 50 EMA, but the Nasdaq seems to have reversed right when it almost got tagged. I don't want to say that it perfectly did, but it almost got tagged at that 50 EMA that we looked at on the daily chart. So if you come over to IXIC, you'll notice on the daily we perfectly, almost, not perfectly, but almost tagged that 50 EMA before the sellers came in. So people are watching this resistance very closely for both the Nasdaq and the S&P, and they just want to see if we can continue to break to the upside or if there's going to be some more selling coming down. It looks like it's the latter. All right, so you guys, 75% of people said bull trap. We'll see. DraftKings share offering. So that's what I was kind of concerned about, if DraftKings had a share offering. It didn't quite show up on my news channel here. So let me see if I can find anything here. So I only saw this, but yeah, I didn't quite see their share offering here on the news section. So I was kind of concerned about that a little bit. They may have raised some capital by issuing shares. No, it was an acquisition, wasn't an offering. Okay, so I only see the acquisition here. I might have to check other sources to see if they did in fact do any type of offering. Because you know the move 5% is quite significant, and I don't see like an acquisition is not even that much of a catalyst. It was only an offer. It's not even a confirmed acquisition, right? So they only offered 20 billion on that. So Kit says on Webull, it says yes. Yeah, so other sources may mention that. We'll take a look at that later. But there we go. The market's coming down here quite a bit. The Dow Jones is still up over 43, the most among all. And then we got Apple and Amazon, unfortunately, pulling back. Amazon being the biggest loser here. Let's take a look at some of our other relative performance charts here. So select sector indices we've already covered, but I want to look at the relative performance charts. So Sam, that's a great question for NEO. A lot of it depends on the delivery numbers for September, which are going to be announced in about a couple of weeks. And then I'll kind of reiterate my position and my thoughts on the company, because right now they downgraded their guidance for the third quarter. So I was expecting 90 to 95,000 vehicle deliveries for 2021, but if they lower their guidance, if they miss their guidance, that's going to be a big issue fundamentally for the company. So I'm just waiting a couple more weeks to find out exactly how many deliveries they do, and if they reiterate their guidance for the year end for Q4 for October, November, December, because that is what's going to drive the revenue for the company. So we'll be watching that very closely. And they've also mentioned 8,500 to as 9,500. That's what they need to do in order for it to make sense for them to hit their target, right? If they don't, then that is going to be a bit of an issue there. So yeah, we can take a look at the oil prices as well. I'm going to open up the unnamed chart and see where we are. But first things first, I just want to quickly go over some of the other companies here. So this is Tesla, NEO, ChargePoint, Lee, XPeng. This is a pattern. This is an index that I've created. This actually will be very interesting to you guys. This is actually an index that I've created specifically for some of the EV companies. So Tesla, NEO, ChargePoint, Lee Auto, and XPeng. It's up over 1% today, right? This is, I think, largely driven by Tesla and the fact that it's up over 1.25. So Tesla probably has the biggest market cap. In fact, it does have the biggest market cap out of all the other four companies. So it's obviously being dragged up higher here. Then we take a look at some of the banking sector here. So this has Bank of America, JP Morgan, Berkshire Hathaway, Goldman Sachs, Wells Fargo, Citigroup, slightly up over 25 basis points, not a whole lot. But FANG stocks here, which includes, we got, I'm going to redraw some of the lines here, but we got Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, Google, Microsoft, Nvidia. So FANG plus M plus Nvidia should also add AMD over here, but it's down about 17 basis points, which is dragging down on the broader markets as well. We're almost going to be turning red here, you guys, for the Nasdaq. It's going to be interesting. 50 EMA. Seems like a lot of people are watching that level very closely. Orange juice update for the end, always. All right, let's take a look at the orange juice. 50 EMA. We've been validating that very, very closely. So let's take a quick look on that. And on the daily chart, actually, I'm just going to copy and paste the 50 EMA here. There we go. So yeah, the 50 EMA, we've just been validating this level very closely. It's also got a very, very important negative divergence. So, you know, a huge type of bearish divergence kind of forming here with the higher highs that are pushing higher for orange juice, right? And let's take a look at gold as well, commodities. I think my prices are going to be over here. So gold. All right, so gold back up to over 1700. And we did dip down to 1744, 1679, kind of like aligned with those levels very closely. Previous support for gold here. But right now we are just seeing some momentum to the upside here, but it also has a very strong resistance roughly at this triple top at 1830, right? So right there. God, what is wrong with my mouse? But this is the 1830 resistance for gold. All right, let's take a look at the energy prices. And let's see where they're trading at. Down. So Chevron, Exxon are also down a little bit. So you'll notice that we actually got rejected at $76 a barrel for Brent. And for crude, we didn't quite get up to as our resistance. It's actually continuing to form this lower highs for crude oil. So as a result, Chevron, Exxon are also down. All right, let's see. This is the testing point again. We should probably mark that support for the Nasdaq as well. It's going to be roughly at the 14,724 level. So we filled that gap. So on the S&P, the Nasdaq, they both filled the entire gap. So we gapped up a little bit. So this is where we opened. We pushed up. We came back down to fill it, and now you can see the buyers are stepping in again, right? So same with the S&P. We basically gapped up here. So you know this was yesterday's close. We gapped up. We pushed up, came back down to fill it. And now it seems like we're seeing the buyers kind of step in again. All right, the VIX did get up to as 24.24, of course, with the selling that we saw intraday. And we are down over 5.75%. 25 is going to be that next level to watch. But you know that's the thing. It's going to have some choppy trading sessions at least until the near future. When we have Jerome Powell's meeting tomorrow, Evergrande's issue, Jerome Powell's meeting again on Friday. And then of course September is going to be over, so Q3 is going to be in the books. There may be some rebalancing effects as the year comes to a close, and in the fourth quarter we'll see how the holiday season does moving forward. So we'll consider to kind of monitor this, and we may see a lot of momentum like back and forth between buyers and sellers for a lot of individual companies and a lot of the S&P 500 as well. All right, let's see. QuantumScape really pushing up here today, 15% to the upside. Let's take a look at HIPO. So, wow. Hippo Holdings. Never heard of this company. Doesn't have any revenues or fundamentals or any financials here. But here's a really interesting stat. They went from 28 million shares outstanding last year to now over 559 million shares outstanding. That's literally the definition of dilution right there. I mean, even if this stock price, so what is that increase? So 280 to about 228 to 280 is about 1,000% increase. From 280 we're going to 560. So the company was very precise in how much they diluted. They exactly diluted 2,000%. So even if the stock rallied 2,000%, which is an insane number, it's daylight robbery. Glenn says, even if the stock rallied 2,000%, if the market cap expanded by 2,000%, and then they did that dilution, you know what the profit would have been? 0. Because that's the hidden sort of red flag for the company is dilution. I would personally, again, this is my 2 cents, my 2 opinion, I would stay away from this company. So is 4370 a resistance for the S&P now? So 4370, what is 4370? 4370 is like right here. Not quite. I don't see a resistance at 4370. I see it more as the 50 EMA. It could be even the high of day, which is sitting roughly at 4400. So 4395 is where we got tagged at intraday. So I would watch like that level. But just based on these candles, just based on the 5-minute candle right now, it kind of seems a little bit likely that we see kind of a little bit of a breakdown below 4360 levels and to turn red. The markets are really just hanging on by a thread right now, just to stay green. I mean, the Nasdaq came down to being only up 12 basis points before pushing up, right? Before the buyers stepped up. So Nasdaq perfectly getting tagged at that 50 EMA. 14,200 I think is going to be a much better support level. And the reason I mentioned that is previous resistance, double top in fact for the Nasdaq. And then once we broke out, we validated that support perfectly here. So right there, resistance, support validated here, and that would be the next support, 14,200 for the Nasdaq. Let's take a look at Amazon. Is Amazon selling off? There we go, down about 25 basis points. 3,300 is going to be that next level to watch. 200 SMA for Amazon. Tesla on the move here, up over 1.3%, definitely pushing up. Upstart, Tesla, some of the non-S&P 500 companies are really, really pushing up today. They're still green. And some of the FANG names are certainly down. QuantumScape, I just want to take a look at... So what stocks do you prefer in a slower economy and what do you avoid? That's a great question. So in slower economy, it's really difficult for companies to grow in general if there's not enough productivity. If the GDP kind of slows down, a lot of companies that are going to be kind of slow, any company that is not going to be growing as fast, right? In slower growing economies, tech still continues to grow strongly, even in those economies. So the GDP drops, but if you still have growth for Amazon, if you still have growth for Apple, which is kind of counterintuitive because Amazon is such a large company. So if it's continuing to grow, that means the GDP is also going to grow during that time because spending is going to be huge, retail sales are going to be up, employment is going to be higher. So I think better are going to be some of the value plays and some of the dividend stocks to also consider in kind of slowing down on the economy. So, those are some plays to look into, but. And we're going to find out what the GDP growth is going to look like starting tomorrow, right? Summary of economic projections. That's going to tell us exactly what the Fed sees for this change in real GDP right here. For the most recent one that they released in July, they said 2021 they expect a 7% jump. That's also, mind you, it's considering from a post-pandemic recovery of 7%. The U.S. at a well over $20 trillion economy is not going to be growing 7% every single year. That's a very high number for as big as the U.S., right? And then moving forward, 2022, they see that being cut in half, more than half, 3.3%, and then down to 2.4%. And longer run, they see it at 1.8% growth rate. So they see it at a decelerating growth for the U.S. All right, so recently signed an agreement with the second top 10 automotive OEM. So that was the catalyst today, 21st. As a result, we are certainly breaking to the upside here for QuantumScape, 14% jump. There we go. We have the buyers kind of stepping in somewhat for the Nasdaq. index here. Do you think the VIX spiking at this time point every month is the big money just playing with J-Powell? He knows he can't talk about tapering if the money in the markets to repay. I think it's mostly because of uncertainty, right? The markets don't like uncertainty. Anything that's unclear to the markets, they don't like. And when it comes to monetary policy, markets are more sensitive to interest rates than they are to tapering. And as long as Jerome Powell is very clear in his communication tomorrow, as he has been in the past, if he clearly tells us what the plan is and how they're going to implement that plan, by the month, by the dates, that is going to be very good for the markets, because that's going to reduce the uncertainty. Remember, every time we reduce uncertainty in the markets, it helps the valuations. It helps overall just general consensus of how the market feels. But every time we have lack of clarity and uncertainty, people start making their own decisions, their own speculations as to what's going to happen when, and that leads to a lot of choppiness and a lot of back and forth in the markets. So if he's very clear, that puts all of us on the same page, and we all have very, very similar consensus on the markets. But interest rates, like I said, are going to be much bigger deal down the line. So right now they're still very low. So tapering, I don't think it's going to lead to a huge, correction. Again, my expectation is an 8 to 10% pullback for the S&P or the Nasdaq, a decent sized correction. But when we actually do announce and start raising rates, I think that's going to be the real kicker for the markets in the future. I don't expect that till 2024. It could come in a little bit earlier, but even then, I think it's not going to be a near-term issue, but certainly a longer-term issue for the markets. All right, so we'll see. We'll see if the markets do correct here. QuantumScape is so far from viable product that's massively overvalued. I agree. 2025 was kind of like the timeline for them when they were going to release those solid-state batteries and start working on them and whatnot. But right now it was just like too oversold. It's just such a huge drop here of 84-85%, which in my opinion, kind of on a technical basis, it kind of deserves a little bit of love here today. So 14%, I think it's okay. I think it's reasonable for QuantumScape. Let's take a look at HLBZ. So Helbiz. Come on, guys. What is this company? Doesn't have any trading. A lot of back and forth. It's up over 141% from $31. Well, no, from yesterday, $14, 170%. I mean, yeah, it's so it doesn't have any product financials here, so nothing. Balance sheet looks okay, but a really small company, right? What is the market cap? We got market cap at just under $1 billion, and this is after the 140% gain. So yesterday it was trading at roughly under 400 billion market cap. So they announced a partnership with Amazon Unit to broadcast Serie B championship in Italy. Wow. So Serie B, right? Is that what it's called? Serie B or Serie B in Italy. So micromobility solutions in urban areas around the world. It offers fleet of vehicles including e-scooters, e-bicycles, and e-mopeds. How did this company go from e-scooters, e-mopeds to partners with Amazon here to broadcast Serie B? Like, is this like a streaming company too? Oh, monthly subscription to Helbiz Live. Serie B fans in Italy can now stream all regular season matches and playoff games on devices with Amazon Prime Video. Okay, that's good. That's good. It's a great catalyst. All right, so the S&P has a testing point here. Let's see. Well, Ken, that's a great question. Why would you want the Serie B rights? I mean, there's a lot of people, local teams still, I believe, play Serie B. Of course, Serie A is the more popular one. But Amazon, I think it makes sense for them to continue to add some of the rights to these broadcasting because, right now I use Hotstar, right? That's the Disney Plus, which basically streams Premier League, right? So all Premier League games are on Disney Hotstar, but Prime Video also needs to do something for football, so they can attract more and more people to Prime Video, right? If they start streaming like Champions League, they start streaming other events, then certainly, I mean, I will be watching that on Prime Video. But But Serie B, like, not for me. Maybe Serie A, but yeah, Serie B winner goes to Serie A. That's a great point, Chip. That's definitely true. CR7 for the win. Tesla's still up here. All right, guys. So it's been a pretty long live stream today. Definitely gonna cut it here. But thank you so much for joining in. I really appreciate it. We got the S&P testing very important support at 4360, the Nasdaq at 14724, and we'll continue to monitor this. We're not too far off from being red on the day, unfortunately, but we'll see. And again, I will be on our Discord, kind of answering questions, sending out alerts if I have to, and sending out all the updates if you guys want to get access to all those real-time updates, alerts. We did buy some stocks today. We are going to be buying some tomorrow as well if the VIX continues to spike here. So we are back up to almost 24.5 levels. If the VIX gets up to 25, 30 levels once again, we will be buying some more. So like I said, if you want to get those real-time alerts, the link to our Patreon is going to be down in the description below if you want to join. As always, enjoy, take care. This is very normal in the markets. We've gone through this several times over. And if you're part of our Discord, we are prepared for this at all times. So thank you so much for joining in. Hope you guys have a great day. Take care. Happy investing. I'll see you guys in the next live stream.